Welcome to this special edition of WTR Small-Cap Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Peter Gastreich, Senior Energy and Sustainability Analyst here at Water Tower Research. In today's episode, we're excited to have Gevo Inc. joining us. For some time, SAF operators, ethanol producers, farmers, and investors have been waiting for clarity on biofuel-related policies in Washington, D.C. Now, in the last couple of weeks, we've had a flurry of announcements by both the outgoing and incoming administrations. Gevo's here to help us navigate the implications. Quickly, in terms of background, Gevo is pursuing several complementary businesses, including sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF, with its Net Zero One project in South Dakota, carbon tracking with its Verity subsidiary, renewable natural gas in Iowa, biopropylene, and other businesses. The company's Red Trail acquisition in North Dakota will add low-carbon ethanol and carbon capture and sequestration to the company's business. The stock trades under the ticker GEVO, and you can learn more about the company on gevo.com. You can also access WTR content on Gevo and get up to speed with our biofuel industry reports on our open access website. Finally, if you have access to Bloomberg or FactSet or other research aggregators, you'll have complimentary access to all of our research there as well. Today, we have two very special guests, and I'm delighted to introduce them. Joining us from Gevo are Dr. Patrick Gruber, Chief Executive Officer and Director, and Lindsay Fitzgerald, EVP Corporate Affairs, who I might add has been based for 20 years at the heart of policymaking in Washington, D.C. Pat and Lindsay, welcome to our podcast, and thank you ever so much for joining us today.
Thanks. Glad to be here. It's good to talk about this stuff. It's kind of exciting times.
Okay, sounds good. So we're going to dig our heels in a bit here, but before we start asking some specifics on the policies, I'd like to ask sort of a basic question here, call it Gevo 101, for any new listeners. Without giving a lot of detail, could you please kind of frame which policies, maybe the two or three, which you are the most focused on, and which parts of those policies impact?
Sure. Well, the first thing then is to start off with kind of our business system, because without understanding that, you can't understand why we care about what we do. Agricultural raw material, growing crops, corn in particular, is important, and you can do climate smart corn, which has a very low carbon footprint. We use the starch from that corn, separate the protein, the oil. We would sell off to the marketplace for food use. And the carbohydrate gets converted to ethanol, then ethanol into jet fuel by chemistry. It is the most cost-effective way, no joke, the most cost-effective way to produce a drop-in hydrocarbon jet fuel made from renewable resources. It wins, especially in our proprietary plant design. We've done this study over and over, compare these economics. So that's the first most fundamental point. On a competitive cost basis, it's competitive with oil. Fundamentally important point. But it also has a zero carbon footprint because of how we've designed the plant and how we would operate it. That's what the potential holds for this. And that's what makes it exciting. So when people say, well, could it ever be competitive? Yeah, in fact, it can. And we can prove it. And that's what's so interesting about it. And that's why we're getting traction across both sides of the aisle, is they see it, hey, you could do both. It's not one or the other. And guess what? You're not sacrificing food either.
So with that, we care about policies that look at those things. Are they looking at sustainable aviation fuel? Are they looking at ethanol and other biofuels? How are they counting all of that carbon? And how are they rewarding farmers for the practices that they're doing on individual land?
In past, we've had a lot of discussions with Gevo, and you've highlighted, as you did again today, about how the support for biofuel policy is quite bipartisan. Now that we're sort of just past the peak the last couple of days in terms of political transition, are you continuing to see reiteration and good evidence of that bipartisanship?
I got to tell you, we spent a lot of time talking to Hill members, senators, representatives prior to Christmas. So the run up to Christmas, I don't know, what we had talked to 15, something like that. And every one of them is positive, and they believe this. These are very conservative Republicans, and they all are supportive of it. And what do you think? We're at the inauguration events this weekend, and what do you think? What do you see, or what's your take?
The general feeling is there is support for biofuels. We are a homegrown American energy source, and we have seen how we can be responsive to solid policy, whether it was through the beginning of RFS back in 2005, 2007 timeframe. Those have all been bipartisan. So there is clear support because, again, it gets back to agriculture, the rural economy, and American homegrown energy.
Yeah, and what's interesting about it is what really resonates is you say, okay, look, we're going to make something that's a drop-in jet fuel, cost competitive with Petrojet on a cost basis. Now that doesn't count depreciation, it doesn't count the capital returns. Still, that's what you would look at when you're doing comparative analyses. But yet, it also is going to use 36 million bushels of corn. We are going to pay a premium for it because we know how to value it, given the business system that values carbon. It'll have it'll sponsor development of new energy, wind, 100 megawatts. It'll produce 1.4 billion pounds of low carbon protein. Now, what's interesting about it then, it also creates 100 plus direct jobs, 1,000 plus construction jobs during the period it's being built, another 700 jobs regionally, $110 million of regional economic benefit over the life of the project, $180 million per year of regional economic development during construction of the project. For every $1 spent, this is important, every $1 spent, according to Charles Rivers Associates, of every $1 of tax credit under 45Z, that returns $6 back to the general economy. So when the talk is, how can we do rural economic development, create jobs, create value, improve the land, make a benefit for farmers, you can see why people are going, hey, that's looking pretty darn good. And that's, I think, what gets people pretty psyched up. And they go, oh, and you can abate carbon too? I had no idea. So that's what makes it exciting and makes it really interesting. It's just a different thing than what people think. This isn't some simple game that you can just go do. You got to do this whole plant design and system and work it. And so that's it's pretty darn interesting. And we're getting, how can you not like that? How can you like that? Cost competitive innovates carbon.
And they're excited for NZ1. They're excited for that facility to be up. They're excited for Red Trail, but they're also excited. I don't know how many people talk to you about it. I had at least 2 different states say, what about our state? Why can't you do this in our state?
Yeah, and we have multiple sites that we've chosen in other states. We don't just, we talk primarily about NZ1, Lake Preston site not to confuse people, but we actually have other sites too. And of course, what we intend to do up at Red Trail is add a SAF plant up there as well, because there's already a well-run ethanol plant. It is one of the 2 lowest carbon ethanol plants on the planet of the 2 that have CCS. There's 3 plants that have CCS. ADM has one, but they have coal-fired electricity. So CCS isn't enough to help them. And so it does help us, and it's integrated. So that plant looks pretty darn attractive, especially when we see what's coming under 45Z, which, by the way, is the law. And we'll talk about that in a minute, I know. So we are pretty darn excited about what we're seeing here. I think we've chosen well so far.
Okay, well, we'll come back to Red Trail in a little bit later, and you brought up the 45Z, so let's get right into that. So, the outgoing Biden administration made some announcements on the final days in office. Were these announcements meaningful? Were they in line with expectations, or did the announcements ultimately raise more questions for biofuel producers? Like, how did you feel about that stage?
Yeah, I think they were good. I think that they were in line with what we've been advocating for. So they were asking for this incoming administration to continue to support biofuels, which I think we see a strong continuation for. So how do we have counting as much carbon as possible with the GREET model? How do we have climate smart ag be included and a pathway for those things to be included? Continue to have CCS play a part in all of this, and any other renewable energy sources that can help you get to the lowest carbon intensity possible fuel that you can.
And so what struck me, though, as it announced it, I saw these people waving their arms around, like it's like what? It's a rule. You have to publish it and then open it for a comment period. This would have been done months ago if it wasn't going to overlap with the transition. So everyone, oh my God. No, calm down, folks. This was straightforward. It's a rulemaking. It has to go out for public comment. That's a good thing. And so that's normal. And so I noticed that in the, we'll come to this too, but in the executive orders, they're going to put, no more finalizing rules until they get their people in place. Well, no kidding. Well, we got 60 days anyway to do it. And so that all kind of works. So I don't anticipate any big problems there. But it's this hand waving that went around was just like, I was shocked actually. Come on, people, are you not paying attention to the process? And as far as what's in it, it was right down the middle of a fairway is what I think. And so they're trying to make it so it's not a handout giveaway to everybody. They're trying, you got to do something for it. Well, that benefits people like us who've done something for it and are going to make a low carbon footprint, and for others who can do that. There are a couple interesting things in there that everyone should take note of. And I like this. Argon GREET, yeah, and it's another updated version of GREET model, and it's, it's out for comment too. The GREET model is a beautiful model to work with because it's transparent, unlike the Corsia model, which is not. And that was done in a back room somewhere by people, and they didn't have it vetted, but except for by, say, European biased enviro groups. And so not mainstream at all. So we like open stuff. There's an executive order here in the national emergency which reinforces, I love this, where it talks about, I'm reading it right now, it requires, if feeling, agencies shall use strictly the most robust methodologies of assessment at their disposal and shall not use methodologies that are arbitrary or ideologically motivated. Yeah, that's right up our alley, because that's what Verity is all about, right? Getting the information out there in front of people. So we're jazzed about that that runs through these executive orders if you've read them. And that's an outstanding theme. We win in that environment. Our business systems win. We like that. So I was pretty jazzed by that. And there's another thing too, is there was, we're going to see, and that is around, we saw indirect land use come down again. Now it should be gone altogether in our opinions, because it's indirect land use is like a tax on farmers, but it's pushed by Europeans primarily and pushed by enviro groups that are far out. And what the idea is, if you use something here, someone chopped down a rainforest there. Corn doesn't do that. Interestingly enough, though, and you saw this in the 45Z, imported UCO was banned or not allowed to be counted for 45Z. The reason is that, believe it or not, in Indonesia, yeah, rainforests are being cut down. That's a problem. So until there's the accountability is going to be for direct land use, direct. That's what the future looks like, and that you're going to see all across the world. In fact, there is the International Energy Agency out of Europe is kind of leading the charge about this. And so you're going to see change over this stuff, and rationality, fact-based accounting for carbon continue to go that direction. I think we crossed the threshold and finally turned the corner on this stuff rather than being all this hand-waving stuff. It's pretty cool.
No, right down the middle of the fairway. I like that. That sounds like a good title for our follow-up note on this this conversation.
Great.
So how about?
So I can't tell you how jazzed we were, because you can imagine you're imagining all kinds of outcomes here, but I thought it was pretty cool.
I call it a win.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. We'll come back to the executive orders as well, but just have a question about the implications. You mentioned, climate smart agriculture. What kind of incentives have we seen within these announcements? Are we getting the good incremental news here for the farmers? I know from our previous conversations that the economic benefit of low carbon ethanol and SAF is really expected to be shared across the entire supply chain. That's very important, and that starts with farmers. Are they seeing what they're expecting within these announcements as well?
So I would say, as it relates to biofuels and understanding that the ag community is very supportive of biofuels, that we can see happening. The USDA secretary has not been confirmed yet, so I think we will see more coming out of USDA as it relates to these sorts of programs coming down the pike. But again, USDA falls under these same policy holds. Give it 60 days. Let's look at what's happening there. But we know we have farm support and we have agriculture support for these programs. How do we create a market and additional markets for things that we're already doing and get paid for it? So I think we will still continue to see that, and we'll see it expanded.
So what's interesting is a business like ours has, even in a jet fuel, has 2 products to sell, at least 2, and we can do more, and we might in places like India where we're active. And that is, you have the physical jet fuel gallon, and then you have the carbon abatement. Do you know what? They're 2 separate customers. How about that? And so you have to be paying attention. Sometimes they're the same, but airlines, they want it. They always want freebies. And so they want to keep the carbon abatement for themselves. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think we're going to have to do it to people who actually can pay for it and want it. They have their struggle to pay for the jet fuel itself, and that's just reality. So it is an interesting game to play, but it's two products, and that's what you should look forward to in a business like ours, is that, this idea that it's just jet fuel, SAF. Nope, wrong paradigm. It's two things, and they work together, and you can leverage them for each other to help. Now, what's fascinating, the carbon itself in our jet fuel, there is no fossil carbon footprint associated with it if it's a zero footprint. Okay, it's renewable, all of it, electron, everything, every bit of it. That's different than almost any other product out there, and that's fascinating. When they released the 45Z, the press release that came out actually to me was kind of stunning. And the reason it was stunning is that in this, it says, and quote, "The new guidelines are a win for farmers, biofuel producers, the public, and the environment. The action today makes an important milestone in the development of market-based conservation opportunities for agriculture," said Secretary Tom Vilsack. And then down below, next paragraph, it said, "America's farmers play a critical role in building the clean energy economy," said White House Senior Advisor for International Climate Policy, John Podesta. And that is a fundamental shift over time. Remember, to the enviros of the world, agriculture is bad. That's been one of the challenges for ethanol over the years, even though the facts are, it's BS. Stuff gets promoted as it's BS, and they keep touting it. I think this is great for us in the marketplace, in the market development. And then the USDA comes out and says, here's what climate smart ag looks like. Awesome. Well, that takes away arguments for why people might go, oh, we can't buy that because it was made from corn or made from ethanol. Well, I got news. It was climate smart ag, good corn. Climate smart ethanol, outstanding. This is good. This is a good precedent that got set here. And I think that the facts, and combine that with what we're seeing in these executive orders, where it's like, let's do fact-based instead of ideological stuff. Awesome. That's a trend we're on. I don't think it's going to stop. It's huge.
Yeah, regarding the executive orders, what are some of the key things you'd like to highlight there and implications for Gevo? I understand, for example, there's a 60-day freeze on guidance documents. Is there anything that we should be aware of there?
Yeah, put it in context. There was going to be a 60-day, the rulemaking takes 60 days anyway. So, okay. The rulemaking, the input for public. So, okay, that's a nothing burger from our standpoint.
Right, but that's also any change of administration, that's standard operating procedure.
It's standard, okay.
No matter what, yep.
Yeah, and likewise, disbursements definitely has a hold. Well, I would think so too. If I was stepping in as a new executive, I'd want to go, hey, I don't want that on my watch unless I said yes. So that's totally normal.
Of course,
and,
yeah.
And the fact is, we're not going to have all of our ducks in a row anyway to close a deal with the DOE. Speaking of which, the DOE loan guarantee, it's progressing as we would have expected. I can't see a hiccup. I don't see it, don't smell it. I saw that Secretary nominee Burgum was questioned about the LPO office, and he was careful in how he answered it. And it was, so they were trying to pin him down, basically saying, are you going to shut that office down or something along those lines? That was Senator Lee asking the questions. And no, he didn't say that. And so it's not Trump won. It's not Trump won, people. And so I think pay attention to all of it. And I got to tell you, Secretary Burgum is in charge of the Energy Council, chairman of the Energy Council, which includes everybody who touches energy, all the agencies who touch energy. That's what was needed. And Secretary Burgum, I hope he'll get confirmed soon, like next week maybe. Awesome. This guy gets it. He's from North Dakota. He understands oil, gas, pipelines, CCS, ethanol, biofuels, the whole bit. He understands all of it because that's what his state has done, and they're very good at it up there. It's amazing. We're so excited for this Red Trail acquisition. And Chris Wright, I've heard honestly nothing bad about this fellow. He must be a super. I haven't met him yet because they're in blackout, but he must be super brilliant because he is. I've never heard so many positive things said about somebody from all quarters, He's a thoughtful, rational person. So I think it's going to be, I like facts and data and decisions and investments that make sense and they are market driven, create jobs. Hey, that plays for people like this, I think.
Yeah, and Burgum has been a huge supporter for carbon capture, right?
Huge supporter for carbon capture. In fact, I was just reading these executive orders again, and there it does say that they're changing, or they're putting priority and instructing the agencies on permitting related to those energy infrastructure things. And so it's a question of how broad, what does that all mean and stuff. And I've heard that there'll be, it's our country is short on energy. Okay, it's short on energy. This is a fundamental issue. We're short on electricity. We need to be using our gas and oil overseas rather than ceding those markets to, competitors. Why would we make money on it? So that all makes sense, right? We also want energy security here. And you think over the long run, if you do biofuel plants, you get biofuel plants all over the country, hydrocarbon plants all over the country. They're not concentrated in Texas on the coast. And so that also is important. So there's a lot of things that are converging here. The fact base, the most important thing of all, cost competitive stuff is possible from renewable resource, and you can abate carbon. 72% of the people, according to one study from Yale last year, 72% of the people in the country think climate is an issue. Not judging it, it's not asking about how much would you spend on this, that, and the other thing. It's just that it's an issue. It's a big enough population where I think you're seeing it picked up on all sides. That'll go, okay, noted. Our constituents care about that. So we can't, you got to pay attention a little bit. But you want things that are economical and make sense. That's our point of view. It has been our point of view. We sometimes feel like the lone voice out there talking about it.
So as all this talk about unwinding of the IRA, what do you see in the executive orders?
Well, what's interesting is I'll tell you another thing that caught my eye is that even in the declaring a national energy emergency, it specifically lists biofuels right along with natural gas, liquids, oil, the whole bit, and refining. It goes on.
Right. It talks about ethanol and aviation fuel specifically, but it has that overarching goal of reliable, diversified, and affordable.
That's our game. That is what we're talking about here, people. So it's pretty exciting. So I love the prominence of biofuels, or in the inclusion of biofuels. Prominence is overstatement. It's in there equal to, in the same lines as the oil. So they're getting, the message is getting across, is this doesn't have to be one or the other. It's all the above. And that's what we're hearing over and over from Congress, is all the above, fair game. It's got to be affordable, reliable, diversified, etc. And they also, we're hearing they appreciate the fact that things create jobs, improve rural economy, the whole bit. So I think we're coming out pretty good here on these things. We all are as a country. I think it's pretty good.
And going back to carbon capture, it sort of reminds me, sort of ask about how things are going with Red Trail. Just sort of shifting gears here a little bit. Could you give us an update on the acquisition and any expectations on when you might close on that?
Yeah, I think we said it would be in January here, around the end of the month. Looks like it's on track to me. It feels pretty good. That means, so what that means, yeah, we do know the financing and we have it arranged. And yes, we do know all the details, and it feels pretty good. What do you think?
It feels good.
I think so. So I think we're in good shape on that one. I expect it to go off without a hitch. It could be that we have to do some paperwork and we have to get some permits transferred over to us. That will, we might have a couple closes along the way here, but that's just paperwork to catch up. So we're in good shape, I think. So I feel pretty darn good about it. And as I said, that plant now looks like a brilliant acquisition in my mind. Remember, there's 3 things we bought. 3. There's an ethanol plant that runs well and makes money. There is a CCS operation that sequesters about 160,000 tons a year. There's also pore space that we acquired that has capacity of about 1 million tons per year. So just think what happened here. CCS is included in the GREET models. There's value to it. We're vertical in carbon capture now. So for us, it's a straightforward question of figuring out how do we capture value from it. Now we have to figure out how do we expand that site and the opportunities by which we do so. So it's an exciting time, and we feel pretty good about it. It ought to move the needle on us, and it changes our revenue dramatically and changes what we do and how we operate. And then we should also talk about RNG too.
I mean, RNG qualifies for the 45Z. And so that's really exciting for how that looks. There's definitely some opportunity for improvement, which we'll be working on, but that qualifies. So that's additional revenue for where that is going. And in addition to California or other markets where we see that it can go.
Yeah, so we like it. So Red Trail, we've acquired it at a good time because 45Z, it's the law. That is a law, and it's here, and you can't unwind that. So that is a producer's tax credit. Sorry, it's a question now, and it's pretty specific as to what it is and what Congress intended. And now with the what's the anti-Chevron rule or the ruling that came out? The name, the one that says that the agencies can't go putting on extra stuff.
Chevron deference was overturned.
Yeah, Chevron deference was overturned. That's a big deal too. And so now we're going to have more, I think, less politicization.
Politicization.
There it is. And that's what we'll have here. And I think on these kind of how you do regulation, how you do implementation, how you do permitting, all these things. And that's what I'm seeing as I read.
And you'll see also what that goes to is what's coming out of Congress. They know they have to be very clear in what they're saying.
Yeah. And then I'll point out, you asked about climate smart ag, is that I participated in a presentation by Secretary Vilsack the other day, and they used an example of if you did ethanol that had ethanol, let's just for using average corn, yeah, it'd be like plus 50, it's like 51 or 52, but you wind up shaving off 20 points, more than 20 points by using the climate smart ag practices that they've identified, which are no-till, reduced-till, cover crops, nitrification inhibitors, and then what the timing at which you do the application of nitrogen. And so with those things, they've got the data, and that shows that there is this real benefit. And what they're doing in their comment period is they're laying everything out in the open, everything, including the models for comment, which is awesome. That's how it should be done. Because sure, we would like some more things added or modified, but you know what? The fact that we're having people lay stuff out in the open so we can comment instead of being a black box that no one understands, I like this way better. That's a better deal for taxpayers.
And it's progress from 40B, where we had a bundle, and that was your required bundle, and that was it.
Yeah. So 20 CI point reduction, right? So I think I like the direction this is all headed. It's good. I feel good. I feel vindicated. I feel vindicated a little bit. We're on the right track here.
Let's get it finalized.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, we've been covering a lot here, from executive orders, 45Z, carbon capture, DOE loan, Red Trail. Let me just sneak in one more question for you here. And, we've discussed a lot here today regarding policy and really gotten in the weeds, but I'll just give you a chance here to sort of, step back and look at the big picture for Gevo and just let us know sort of like what kind of message would you like to convey to investors?
Well, we were the first to do alcohol to jet. We have patents that were filed in 2007. So people have forgotten that. Actually, ethanol into jet. There's all these people who come along after and said, oh, we did this, that, and think, sorry, we did it first, people. And so that's why we can strike great deals with Axens, and we continue to strengthen our partnership with them. It is we're a technology company who's an investor. We acquire and are building these operating assets so we know what we're doing. We're learning how to do it and run these businesses. We, as a company, would also license technology in the future and develop plants for other people. We would do that and take a portion of those plants as a developer would. And we'll also make our own investments. What's fascinating is we're setting ourselves up we're working on trying to get ourselves to EBITDA positive as fast as we possibly can. And that's a fundamentally different point of view. And we want to preserve our balance sheet while we're doing it. We think it's possible. So we're a developer, a technology company, an investor, a management company. All those things we are. And we have money and knowledge across this whole space. Plus we have our subsidiary Verity, which is a leader in tracking and tracing, and that's going to be more important than ever, I think, in the future. And proving, you got to, because I think you are going to have to prove, where did your stuff come from, where exactly, how, and that's right, exactly what Verity is about. So I feel like we're, getting there, maybe getting our stride. So I feel I'm kind of energized by this. I'm kind of psyched up because you just don't, like everybody, I was a little apprehensive. You don't know what's going to happen. But here, okay, are there issues? Yeah, there's things we got to work through, but there's nothing. I see all things that are workable. So I feel pretty darn good about where we are. And so I'm psyched.
Okay, that's great. Well, thanks, Patrick, and thanks, Lindsay, for helping us set the record straight. There's just a lot of things going on recently, and I think it's super helpful for myself and for the investors listening in to sort of help us sort of understand what we should be focused on through the weeds here. So thank you very much. That's been great. Thanks also to our listeners for joining for this episode of the WTR Small-Cap Spotlight. Again, that was Gevo, NASDAQ ticker symbol GEVO. Finally, a special thanks to the producer and editor of the podcast, my colleague, Joe Brunetto. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe as well as visiting www.watertowerresearch.com to stay up to speed on the company's small cap Britain research products, podcasts, fireside chats, and conference schedules. We'll see you next time for another edition of the WTR Small Cap Spotlight.